Many people spend years trapped in a cycle of confusion, self-blame, and emotional exhaustion, all in the name of keeping the peace. This video explores the destructive dynamics of narcissistic relationships, the common mistake of using kindness to resolve them, and how true freedom begins, not with more compassion, but with unshakable clarity and detachment. The hidden cost of being nice. There's a deeply ingrained belief that kindness heals all, that with enough patience, understanding, and compassion, even the most difficult person can change. But this belief becomes a weapon in the hands of a narcissist. What begins as empathy slowly turns into self-erasure. When kindness is extended to someone who values emotional connection, it fosters trust. But when shown to someone who thrives on dominance, it signals vulnerability. Every kind gesture, every moment of patience, becomes evidence that they can go further, push harder, and take more, without consequence. The narcissist doesn't misinterpret your kindness. They interpret it perfectly, and they use it against you. The predator's playbook. Narcissists don't seek connection. They seek control. Every interaction is a subtle test. A slight insult to see if it's laughed off. A boundary crossed to see if it's enforced. A moment of emotional neglect to see if it's tolerated. What you perceive as isolated incidents are part of a calculated strategy. What begins as subtle manipulation grows into open domination. And when you respond with grace and forgiveness, you unknowingly give permission for it to continue. Not because you are weak, but because you are compassionate. Because you believe in redemption, in second chances, in seeing the best in people. But narcissists aren't playing the same game. They don't value fairness, accountability, or emotional truth. They value power. And if they can make you doubt yourself, your memories, your emotions, your worth, they win. Why appeasement always fails. The more you sacrifice your peace for theirs, the more they expect you to. Keeping the peace becomes a full-time job. You silence yourself to avoid conflict. You second-guess your feelings to avoid accusations. You tolerate emotional neglect in hopes that love will return. But peace with a narcissist is not real peace. It's submission disguised as harmony. Appeasement doesn't earn you respect. It trains them to see your empathy as compliance. It teaches them there are no consequences, that they can wound you without losing you, that they can control you through guilt, blame, and the illusion of change. What starts as a hope to fix the relationship, slowly, becomes a lifetime of walking on eggshells. Kindness is not a strategy, it's a setup. In healthy relationships, kindness is a bridge. In narcissistic relationships, it becomes a trap. A narcissist doesn't see your empathy and think you're a good person. They see a person who can be guilted into silence, who can be manipulated into staying, who will rationalize mistreatment in the name of love, loyalty, or morality. This is where the confusion deepens. You think, if I'm just more understanding, they'll finally see what they're doing. But that day never comes, because they aren't misunderstanding your kindness. They are exploiting it. This is not about being heartless. It's about recognizing that kindness, when used in the wrong place, becomes self-destruction, especially when it's motivated not by love, but by fear. Fear of confrontation, fear of abandonment, fear of being seen as cruel. Breaking the cycle, clarity over compassion. The turning point comes when you stop trying to fix the unfixable, when you accept that no amount of explaining, reasoning, or forgiving will change someone who is committed to maintaining power at your expense. This is where your power begins, not in changing them, but in changing how you respond. Setting boundaries is not cruel. Refusing to explain yourself is not rude. Walking away is not selfish. These are the acts of someone who has reclaimed their sense of worth. The only language a narcissist understands is consequence. When you stop playing by their rules, they lose control. Not because you punished them, but because you removed the fuel they run on. Your emotional reactions, your validation, your compliance. Emotional detachment, the ultimate power shift. Detachment is not apathy. It's not pretending it didn't hurt. It's choosing not to let them decide how you feel about yourself. It's refusing to engage in a game you can never win. Narcissists provoke to control. Every insult, guilt trip, or silent treatment is designed to pull you back into their world, where they make the rules and rewrite the truth. The moment you react, they regain control. The moment you seek understanding, they twist the narrative. True detachment is the refusal to participate in this dance. It's stepping back, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. Because you finally understand, not every accusation deserves a response. Not every conflict must be resolved. Not every lie needs to be corrected. Reclaiming the mind, ending the psychological grip. What makes narcissistic abuse so devastating isn't just the behavior, it's how deeply it distorts your reality. Over time, your sense of self begins to erode. You stop trusting your feelings. You question your memories. You wonder if maybe you are the problem. This is not by accident. It's by design. Gaslighting is one of the most powerful tools in the narcissist's arsenal. By denying your reality, they keep you off balance. The more uncertain you are, the easier you are to control. They don't need you to love them. They need you to doubt yourself. The first step to breaking free is reclaiming that certainty, redefining who you are, what you deserve, and what you will no longer tolerate. Because once you are sure of yourself, their opinion no longer matters. And without that, they lose the one thing they need most: influence. The silent exit, how to disengage with power. Disengaging isn't about slamming doors or winning arguments. It's about removing access, emotionally, mentally, and physically. Stop responding, stop defending, stop waiting for closure, because waiting for a narcissist to give you closure is like waiting for them to admit they've lost. It will never happen. The power dynamic begins to crumble the moment you become indifferent, when their insults no longer hurt, when their praise no longer excites, when their silence no longer scares. This won't go unnoticed. In fact, it may trigger their most intense reactions. They may escalate, lash out, or suddenly appear kind and remorseful. But it's not real. It's a tactic to pull you back in. Do not mistake desperation for sincerity. Healing the deeper wounds. Escaping the narcissist's grip is only the first step. The real work begins when you look inward. There's a reason the pattern continued. It wasn't just their manipulation. It was your own willingness to tolerate it. This is not about blame. It's about truth. Until the root is exposed, the wound cannot heal. Maybe it was a childhood belief that love must be earned. Maybe it was a fear of abandonment that made silence easier than conflict. Maybe it was a longing for validation that kept you seeking approval from someone who would never give it. These are not flaws. They are wounds, and now is the time to tend to them, not with more self-sacrifice, but with fierce self-loyalty. The freedom of self-definition. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone. You don't need permission to walk away. You don't need their understanding to validate your experience. The freedom you seek does not come from changing the narcissist. It comes from reclaiming the right to define yourself without their distortion. That clarity is what keeps you safe. That inner strength is what keeps them out. Because narcissists do not seek those who are self-assured. They seek those who are still questioning their own value. When you heal, when you truly know your worth, you become untouchable. Closing words. Peace is your birthright. There is life after the narcissist. There is peace beyond the chaos. And that peace begins when you stop trying to win a game that was never meant to be fair. Your job is not to teach them to love. Your job is to unlearn the belief that love should hurt. Your healing is not about revenge. It is about freedom. It is about becoming the kind of person who would never again tolerate the version of love that once kept you trapped. You are not too sensitive. You are not overreacting. You are waking up, and that awakening is where your power lives.